Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Township of North Dumfries Committee of the Whole meeting for June 5th. Members of the public are invited to attend the township office in person to speak on any report on the agenda or register with the clerk's division in advance to attend the electronic. Members of the public who have registered to attend electronically have been provided with a Zoom link to join the meeting this evening and have indicated to staff which item they would like to participate in. Those who are present in person will be able to speak to any staff report on the agenda when it is reached and will be asked to approach the podium and to speak. Please note that all speakers are provided with no more than 5 minutes to address the staff report. The clerk will time each speaker and advise the chair when the 5-minute time limit is up. Members of the public have been provided with the following methods to watch and participate in this open meeting electronically. First, attend the township office located at 295 Greenfield Road, Dumfries. Second, watch the live stream by accessing the meetings in the township YouTube page. Third, attend electronically to observe the meeting or to speak to an item on the agenda. Fourth, submit written comments to the clerk's division that have been provided to the mayor and the council prior to the meeting and will form a part of the public record. I'd now like to call the meeting to order. Can I have approval of the agenda, please?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Williams, that council adopt the January from June 5, 2023 committee of the whole agenda as presented with the following agenda. At closed session item 12.1, report number CAO-12-2023, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, Municipal Act Section 239(2)B, and labor relations or employee negotiation, Municipal Act Section 239(2)D.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I would now like to do the indigenous knowledge acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and Anishinaabe. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. But as we acknowledge this, it is not enough. And we know that our history has not been fair, and things are happening today that should never happen to anyone. And that's what we are. We must move forward with eyes wide open, but we also must be respectful and understanding, and actually consider ourselves privileged. This land, so I'd like to pause as we reflect on this. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general interest? Seeing none. Can I have the adjournment to go to committee of the whole, please, Councilor Williams?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Williams, that council adjourned to sit as committee of the whole.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next up is finance. If asked, I'm going to ask if any members of the council would like to report. There is a presentation 6.1. Does anyone want to report 6.2 or 6.3? If not, we can pass the motion 6.2 to 6.3. So, I believe Councilor Rowland, you have that one.
For myself and Councilor Oster, the committee of the whole recommend the following item be approved as presented as outlined in the staff report listed in the finance function area. 6.2 report number FIN 14-2023, 2023 transfers to reserves, 2023 year-end surplus. One, that report FIN 14-2023 be received. Two, that council approve the following transfers to reserve for 2023 to 2022 year-end surplus. A, allocation of $125,000 to structural reserves. B, allocation of $225,000 to facility reserve. And C, allocate balance 2022 public surplus to public works rolling stock reserve. And 6.3 report number FIN 15-2023, 2023 World Bank of Canada RBC agreement. that FIN report number 15/2023 be received, and that council authorize the mayor and treasurer to execute the amendment regarding 2023 agreement with the World Bank of Canada RBC.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. And now we will go to 6.1, which is the presentation. Presentation from Tracy Smith, partners of BDO Canada LLP regarding 2022 audited financial statements. And Tracy is online. Welcome, Tracy. It's all yours.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the council for inviting me to your meeting this evening. Would you like me to put the presentation on the screen or?
Yes, please.
Well, yes, okay. Okay. Now can you just confirm that you can see the presentation on your screen?
It looks good.
Yeah, we're good?
Yeah, good.
Okay. All right. So again, I'd like to thank you for having me this evening. I would like to thank Christina and her team for their assistance during the audit. As your auditor, we have the responsibility to communicate with those charged with governance on an annual basis. So this report on your screen, and it's also on page 7 of the agenda package, contains all the required communications under Canadian auditing standards. The communication is very similar year to year, as the content is prescribed by the standards, and it's required to be communicated on an annual basis. So I'll provide just a very brief overview of the communication, and then provide a high-level overview of the draft financial statements, which are contained in Appendix A to this report. Since I am virtual, I'll stop and ask for questions at the end of the communication, and then also again at the end of the draft financial statements. So I'm just going to scroll here to the executive summary. So the financial statements are in draft and are provided in Appendix A. The financial statements need to be approved by council before they can be released in final. And then once they're approved, we need to do subsequent event work up until that approval date, and also get a signed representation letter from your management team. We are required to confirm with you on an annual basis that BDO is independent of the township and able to give an independent opinion on the financial statements. Materiality was 340,000, which is 3% of total average revenues. And that's consistent with public sector. That's consistent with public sector organizations. On pages 4, 5, and 6, they summarize our current audit process. Not going to go into that in detail. On page 7, I do want to highlight the changes to the accounting standards for public sector entities. So these changes are effective now, and they'll be reflected in your next year end for December 31st, 2023. And the reason that I want to highlight it is there's a very significant change for asset retirement obligations. That's going to require your municipality to record a liability for things such as the landfills, which you already do, but it will be shown in a different way. Things like buildings with asbestos, gravel pits. And I just mentioned it here at this reporting date because it will take significant resources from your finance team to gather the information in the next 6 months before the year end. So I just want to make you aware that is coming up for next year end. The pages 8 and 9 are highlighting the changes in the auditing standards that actually impact auditors. So in 2022, there was a major change to the auditing standards, which required, and this was a change not just to your municipality, but a change to all audits that are done for all entities in all different sectors. And it basically requires our BDO audit staff to totally redesign the whole audit process and bring in information specialists to review the IT controls affecting the audit. So I do want to thank Christina and her team again for helping us get through that, and also to because there was a significant amount of work on our end to get the significant to get appropriate documentation for us to be able to issue our audit report. On page whatever page that is, page 10 of the internal controls. This is where we would report to you if we had any found any issues during the audit. So we're happy to report that we did not find any deficiencies in the design or the implementation of the internal controls that we tested during the audit. On the unadjusted differences on page 12, they are not material. So we can issue a clean opinion without any qualifications. So that is that concludes the high-level overview of the communication of our report. Is there any questions before we move on to the actual numbers in the audit report?
I have one. What's this about the aggregate? How is that being affected into the Christina?
Madam Mayor, it actually has nothing to do with aggregate as in terms of gravel pits. It is the sum total for accumulation. It is a term widely used in accounting that everyone here gets confused of because we obviously think gravel pits.
Thank you. Carry on, please, Tracy.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to turn to the actual audit report. So this is BDO's communication. The management is responsible for preparing the financial statement, and it's our responsibility as auditors to give an opinion on the financial statements prepared by management. We issued an audit opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that can be provided by a public accounting firm. Our opinion is in the second paragraph here. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards, which essentially means that it's a clean opinion, that there was no issues or concerns that came to our attention during the audit. Just a high-level overview of the actual financial statements. So the statement of financial position, or it's often referred to as a balance sheet, is at a point in time on December 31st, 2022. On December 31st, 2022, total assets were 33.7 million. The largest portion of that is 19 million in cash and 11 million in long-term investments. The cash increase was because the cash increase of 3.5 million was because 1.2 million was put into reserves. And there was also an increase of 1.8 million in the obligatory reserve funds, which you see down here in the liability section of the balance sheet. I just want to highlight the long-term investments because there was a change this year in 2022. The long-term investments is the municipality's investment now in Grand Bridge Energy Inc. So in previous years, that was your investment in Energy Plus. So there has been a change in the because of the amalgamation between Energy Plus and Brantford Energy Corp. The township will no longer show an increase in this long-term investment every year. The dividends will be recorded as revenue, the same as in prior years, but this long-term investment will remain the same. So that's just a small difference. There are notes and disclosures in the financial statements to talk about that change. It will not affect your budget and will not affect any the amount that you need to raise from taxation. You'll budget for the revenue coming in from the dividends, just as you have always done. But I just wanted to highlight that change. On December 31st, total liabilities were 11.2 million. There was an increase in accounts payable, but that's simply due to timing of payments and the timing of capital projects that were ongoing at the end of the year. The main liability that you see there is obligatory reserve funds. That's not really a true liability. It shows as a liability because that is the amounts that you collect for developer deposits, for development charges and for the old gas tax and in lieu of recreation land. So that's basically a reserve fund that you've collected, and it will be reported as revenue once you you incur the expenses that are going to be financed by that obligatory reserve fund. So it shows a little bit differently than your other reserves, which are all included down here in your accumulated surplus. The other large amounts you see here on the liabilities is the other current liabilities. And that includes the developer deposits and refundable occupancy and other permits. That brings us down here to the net financial assets of $22.4 million. So that's an important key financial indicator. If it's positive, that means you have resources for the future. It increases when you increase your reserves and you repay your debt. Want to also note that you have very little long-term debt. There's no new external debt in the year, and that the long-term liability that you do have will be repaid in December of 2024. If physical assets, tangible capital assets, $37.4 million. That's your physical assets, your buildings, your equipment, the roads. That's at cost. It's not replacement cost, and it's cost less amortization to reflect the use of the asset over time. That brings us down to $60 million in accumulated surplus. So that's your equity that you've accumulated over time, both monetary and physical assets. That includes all of your reserves, and it also includes your operating surplus, which you just you have just passed a motion previous to this, 412,798 was the surplus that you've approved to transfer to reserves in 2023. That brings us to the statement of operations and the accumulated surplus. So this is the transactions for the year. The revenues for the year total $14.3 million. And the revenues include all of your external revenues for both operating and capital purposes. So there's been an increase in revenue because you had some significantly more grants that you've received for your capital purposes. The expenses include the operating expenses and amortization. So that does not include the actual capital purchases. When you're looking at the budget versus actual, it looks like you were overspent, but that's not the case. The budget amounts under public sector accounting standards require you to have amortization, which you're not required to budget for. So if you took that amortization out, then you would actually be under budget in your actual expenses for the year. That brings us down to the annual surplus of $4.1 million. So again, it's important to note that that is not your operating surplus. The operating surplus was the 412,000 discussed earlier. The annual surplus on this page focuses on the long term, and it is making sure that you're raising enough to be able to repay your debt and also to replenish your capital assets. So it focuses on the long term. It should always be positive, and it always should be a very large positive number. It's significantly higher than it was the year before because you had significant capital grants that are recorded as revenue. yet the capital expenses are not recorded in your operating expenses here. So when we take this annual surplus of 4.1 onto the next page, and we can adjust that for your actual capital purchases during the year of 4.5 million, and we adjust back the amortization that was included in those operating expenses to come down to your net increase in net financial assets of $1.3 million. So the 1.3 million increase in your net financial assets, that reflects the amounts that were transferred to reserve, your operating surplus, and the amounts that you used to repay the long-term debt. The budget amount is negative, and that's okay. Neither positive or negative is better on this statement. Negative just means that you had budgeted to take money out of the reserves to pay for your capital projects. As you can see here, you budgeted 7.8 million for capital projects, but you only spent 4.5, so you didn't need to take the amounts out of reserve. So the last statement is the cash flow statement, this is just reflects the physical cash flowing in and out of your bank account during the year. In the middle of the page here, you'll see you brought in $8.2 million in cash from operations. You spent 4.5 million on capital assets, and you repaid debt of 228,000, meaning having a net cash increase of $3.4 million in your bank account. So overall, the township is in good financial position. You've got an operating surplus for the year of 412,000. You've got very small amount of external debt, of which it's going to be repaid in the next 2 years. You've got positive cash flows with $19 million in the bank and reserves of $11.7 million. So again, overall, in strong financial position. So that includes a very high level overview of the financial statements. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Councillors. Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Councillor Rowland?
Myself and Councillor Wilms, that FIN report, FIN 13-2023 we received. That council approved the 2022 audited financial statements for the township of North Dumfries presented as attachment number 1. And 3, that council authorized the 2022 audited financial statements to be finalized and published.
All those in favor? And thank you to the BDO, and thank you to Christina Bross, finance.
Thank you.
Next, we are on development for service functions, and there was public wish to speak to any needs, council members, any council members wish to speak, Councillor.
I just have a quick question on report 7.1. Through you to CEO McNeely. We've had a few emails with a gentleman in regards to a lighting issue. Is that being rectified through the project? Are they putting in direct lighting in so it doesn't irritate any of the neighbors?
Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Rosser. As identified in the staff report, there was a resident who lives on Welsh Drive to the north of the subject lands who has expressed on several occasions, including the September 2022 public meeting, about light and light trespass that infringes on their enjoyment of their property. As identified in the staff report, it's not an item that would be dealt with through the zoning bylaw memo, which is before council tonight. And in fact, it would be under the site plan control process. And we anticipate in the immediate term, a site plan application to be filed by the owner to facilitate the development of the lands consistent with provisions of the zoning bylaw, which allows for the expansion of uses on the property. And one of the requisite studies that would be required as part of that site plan application is an external lighting plan. And that lighting plan we've already flagged is to respond to some of the issues that have been previously expressed by Mr. Gayford as it relates to light penetration on his property.
Okay, great, thank you, because it seems like he's been trying to get this rectified for a while and looks like it's gonna happen, so that's good to hear. Thank you.
Any other councillors? Any members of the public wish to speak on this? Oh, John there. She's ready to go. Go ahead, John. John, you ready to go? We can't hear you, John. We'll give him a few minutes to come back in. Did you have anything to make, Paul?
Yeah, it's just a question about eligible representing general. Just a question on section E in the bylaw says about the archaeological assessment that was done. Region has a report. And they've sent a letter to say they're satisfied now, so I'm just wondering if there's need for E to still be in there. I know for any additional lands beyond what was tested by the archaeological people, but I'm just saying this kind of reads that it's still to come, and they have the report. There was a letter came into the township on I've got it here. May 2, and then there on the second page it says the inclusion of the holding provision in site specific zoning bylaw requiring completion of an archaeological assessment, administrative acknowledgement, letter for any additional area of site alteration development on the subject lands identified as part 2 on Schedule A. Site specific exemption 20.1.8 of the Township of North Humphreys General Zoning Bylaw. Holding provision shall not be released until the region has received the archaeological assessment administrative acknowledgement letter to satisfaction. And I think there was a letter that did come in subsequent to say they were satisfied. So I just wanted to verify that, and which to me, if it's been satisfied, then it does need to be in the bylaw.
Shannon, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Paxton, to El Shido. So he does say that the holding symbol will remain on part 5. So that's where the scoped archaeological assessment was not completed. So the condition of the region was that we could release the area where you did do the scoped archaeological. However, the holding symbol has to remain on part 5. So through the mapping, it shows the area that was not completed, which included the driveway, and then that came down across the property towards the front. So anywhere that the ARC assessment was completed, that part is free and clear, but part 5 strictly speaks to where the assessment was not done. So we have the holding on as requested by the region. So that's what that is for.
Yeah, that's the area that is the developed area right now. So, okay, that's fine. Thank you for
Thank you,
clarifying.
Any word from John?
I'm back here. I don't know if you can hear me now.
Oh, John, that was loud and clear. Go
Oh,
ahead,
okay.
John.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not that good at this stuff, but I'll turn my volume down a little bit. Look, I don't want to waste your time, and I appreciate all the things you guys are doing, but this stems back to 2021 is when I first introduced myself to Halls in this situation. They'd only put the light up 3 months before. They put the light up not for anything other than security. And you have to appreciate, I live 1.2 kilometers away from these people, and they told me at that time they would address the situation. I waited a year and I called them back again and I said, you still haven't addressed the situation. So I have another email. I've sent my email package in there that all the correspondence that we've had. So I waited a full year trying to be a good neighbor, understanding it takes time. And then again, they said there was nothing to do. They told me to plant trees. I told them the tree would have to be 48 feet tall. So that it's ridiculous. So again, I've asked them and I invited them up to come see the light, see the situation, see what I'm going under. I have, my neighbors are complaining, but I'm the one that's going to be the front man so that there's no other repercussions. But we just want a resolution. And I don't believe these people because we were at the meeting in September with you people. They got up there and they said, oh, the shield is only 3 months back ordered. We'll have it. I've never heard from them again. There's no shield up. There's no back order. And now we're going back to say, oh, well, they're going to do a site plan and they're going to correct their situation. But the thing is, I've had them tell me 3 times now, each one of them, they've lied to me. Basically, that's what I have to say because they've done nothing. And they're doing it for security. Security is a fence, a gate. It's not light shining at 1.2 kilometers on a neighbor, okay? I get so frustrated and I getting to the point where, you know, you watch these crazy TV shows and you say, now you can understand why some people get upset. Because I think after going on to the 3rd year trying to resolve this is ridiculous. So I don't know what to say to you except I can't trust anything he says. There's nothing I can trust. The response, George Cook, I believe, was the one that went out there 2 years ago with me, and he looked at the light and he couldn't believe it. He even drove down and they said they would resolve it. So they keep telling different people different stories, but they're not solving the problem. That's all I'm asking. Just solve the problem.
Okay, thank you, Don. Staff, do you want to respond as he was not on when CEO McNeely spoke of this before? But it is going to be taken care of. And CEO McNeely, go ahead, please.
Madam Mayor, I've communicated recently, last week and a half with Mr. Gayford. His comments are included in the staff report under correspondence. And as we've identified previously, this is a matter that would be dealt with through the site plan control agreement in terms of an exterior lighting matrix plan. It would identify existing and future lighting, as well as the extent or trespass of light beyond the boundaries of the property. And the site plan control agreement, no building permits can be issued until the site plan control agreement is duly executed. The agreement itself is registered on title, and as such that it is with the property, not necessarily with the owner of the property.
Is it reasonable to ask how much time that will take before we even see a site plan in there?
CEO McNeely?
Madam Mayor, I believe, Mr. Sheetal will correct me if I'm wrong, the owner is anxious to start construction this construction season. And I anticipate that the site plan application and all requisite drawings and studies that were previously identified by staff, including the exterior lighting plan, would be submitted in the immediate period. And I communicated in my correspondence with Mr. Gayford a week or week and a half ago that once we got that full submission, staff will be pleased to share with him those drawings.
Okay, so excuse me, I'm sorry if I'm out of order. So the last thing is, so the shield that he promised in that last meeting is something he did not do again. Is that the way I understand it? Then he's not presenting a shield like he said he would?
We have the site plan agreement will be done by staff that will address your issues, whether it's a shield or a totally different lighting system. At this point, I can't tell you, but it will be dealt with and the site plan agreement.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Mr. Sheetal.
Good. Just so you're aware, the plan is already underway, and as soon as we can submit in, we'll have the plan in, so it's already. So it's underway.
Thank you. So, Councilor Roman.
Madam Mayor, with regard, I know it's slightly off topic, but with regards to lighting, it seems like we have this problem all over the township. We have it at, well, Picture 2 Swans, we've had it at Meller Drive, we have it at 4197. What exactly is our dark skies policy? Do we have one, and is it strict enough? Do we need to look at reviewing our dark skies policy maybe in the future? And even retrofitting buildings, maybe we need to be a little more strict on how much lighting is being spilled into basic property.
CO McNeil.
So Madam Mayor, through site plan control processes, township does require dark sky lighting. And that's been in place since mid-2015, and as technologies improve, because there has been significant improvements specifically in the LED luminaire since 2015. That is our standard. The issues that we're having is some of these older properties that are not subject to site plan control, and owners have either augmented their existing lighting or have changed out some of their old light packs. And they haven't been required to go through an approvals process because we don't have a mechanism in which to do that, because there's no site plan control agreement historically. And so, yes, we do have a handful of properties where people have brought forward complaints, but it's not through the planning process. It's just the natural change out of exterior lighting over time.
CO McNeil, maybe down the road, we can staff report on this, if there's anything we can do about it. And maybe we can have it, because it's not to do with this issue tonight, because that will be dealt with the site plan control. But if there is addition, if there's an issue in other areas, we need to look at it, maybe there's nothing we can do, but maybe there's a possibility we can use that. Any other questions or comments, councilors? Can I have the motion, please, Councilor Ross?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Tilly, that the committee of the whole recommend the following be approved as presented as outlined in the staff reports listed in the development services function area. 7.11, report number PD 18/2023, proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 552 Piper Street, file number ZCO 522. That PD report number 18/2023 be received, and that bylaw number 3416-23 being a bylaw to further amend general zoning bylaw 689-83 to facilitate the construction of a warehouse building addition, a truck wash building facility, and associated amenities at 552 Piper Street be enacted.
All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Next up is community and social funds, so community services functional area. Is there any member of council who wishes to speak on this report? Seeing none, is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this report? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please, Councilor Austin? No, is that wrong? Okay, we're at Councilor Tilly, please.
That's very good. Moved by myself, seconded by Council Roman, the committee of the whole recommend the following item be approved as presented and outlined in the staff reports listed in the community service function area of 8.1 report number PW 15/2023, airport fest on June 24th, 2023. Temporary no parking on portions of Howard Marshall Street, Hilltop Drive, Challenger Drive, Robert Simone Way, Patterson Drive, and Vincent Drive. One, that PW report number 15/2023 be received. And two, that bylaw number 3415-23 being a bylaw to establish temporary no parking restrictions for Hilltop Drive west side from Munn Street to Howard Marshall Street, Hilltop Drive north side from Howard Marshall Street to east leg of Watson Crescent, Howard Marshall Street both sides from Hilltop Drive to Hilltop Drive, Challenger Drive south side from Hilltop Drive to Patterson Drive, Patterson Drive east side, Challenger Drive to Challenger Drive, Robert Simone Way east side from Challenger Drive to southern leg of Simone Way, Vincent Drive south side from Challenger Drive to 255 Vincent Drive, and Howard Marshall Street east side from Robert Woolner Drive to Hilltop Drive to facilitate the Orange Porch Fest event scheduled for June 24th, 2023 be enacted.
Thank you, all those in favor? It's carried, thank you. Next is government and protected services. Are there any topics that councilors at Council Roman?
9.5.
9.5. Anyone else? Council Tilly?
I'm not at the moment, thank you.
All right, so we're going back by part. Oh, and also, The noise bylaw 9.2. So, Art, would you like to speak on the noise bylaw?
Well, I don't know what to say. I don't even know what's going on.
Ms. Sage, you did give him the bylaw? Yes, you were given a copy of the staff report with the bylaw in it.
I know, but it's very new bylaw proposed, so I don't know what's going on.
See you over here.
Madam Mayor, through to Mr. Werner. What is in front of council tonight is a high-level summary, a draft of a new noise bylaw. So effectively, the 2014 era bylaw would be rescinded. And a new noise bylaw would be introduced that would regulate noise within the township. What we're seeking of township council tonight is just to acknowledge receipt of the draft noise bylaw, and over the next month, we will be advertising the draft noise bylaw and asking for comments from members of the public on terms, conditions, and the regulatory framework of the draft bylaw. And then staff will be returning back to council on July the 10th with any comments arising from the public engagement phase and introducing for council's consideration formal decision related to a new noise bylaw for the municipality. So over the next 5 weeks, there's an opportunity for you to review the draft document and provide the bylaw division, clerk's department with any comments you might have on the draft noise bylaw.
That draft out now.
Mr. Werner, the township clerk circulated you a copy of the report and the draft bylaw on Friday.
Yes, I did read it, but I don't see any difference there being existing now.
Oh, it's a major rewrite with more extensive definitions, and we broke apart some land uses to provide more clarity in terms of what expectations were related to noise, as well as hours of the day of when there could be noise.
Yeah,
Microphone, please, the microphone.
I submitted a complaint on December the 12th of last year about noise coming from the Gervais garage. And at that time, I asked a very simple question that garage and close the doors so it wouldn't have noise, because I live right across the street. Across the river, and it would actually solve the whole problem. But this is since December, we're now into June, and nothing has been done. Today was an awful day, it was so noisy. The impact was on hammering steel on steel. It is, why do I have to put up with that? The noise bylaw says if it's an unwanted sound, it should be looked after. I can't get anybody to do it.
And as I explained to you, that was zoned industrial. It was zoned
It
industrial.
doesn't matter for what it's zoned, if it's a noise, it doesn't specify anywhere. I looked through the
Actually, it does in
bylaw.
the bylaw. Says
It
the
does
bylaw.
not, I want proof, because I cannot see it. It's a noise that's coming, and it's an unwanted sound, and I don't want it.
And it's been there since Dave's down years old. But see, do you want to comment?
That building, Mayor Foxton, that building, is a brand new building, it's an illegal building, it shouldn't even be there.
That site is an industrial site. Sir. Go ahead, Senor.
But, okay,
So, Madam Mayor, as has been previously communicated on several occasions, including in writing to Mr. Werner, there is a provision in the current 2014 noise bylaw that exempts industrial properties from the emission of noise. And at the conclusion of tonight's meeting, I will publish that bylaw again and highlight the section from the 2014 bylaw that speaks to that exemption for industrial zone properties.
I asked for that, to see where that was. At the last meeting, when I gave my 10-minute speech, I wasn't allowed to say anything anymore, and then it came up with. They got an exemption of the industrial noise. Where it came from, I asked several people, and nobody can show it to me. I never found it. If it's noise, it's noise. That building should not be where it is, in downtown air, in the heart of air, in a residential area. Why is that building even there?
So that whole section used to be industrial with, Love's property, which was called, again. On the, yeah, Main Street. Yeah, what's.
Well, David.
So that's all been industrial for, before any of us were born. And it's always been industrial classification, which means they are allowed exemptions from noise. Because
What was
people,
it saying? I don't see
it's
it.
in the bylaw, and I read it myself, John, can we quote it to this?
Actually, I'm printing it off right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Werner.
It's always been in the bylaw.
Mayor Fox,
Yes,
30 years ago, apparently, the Air News reported that that was changed from industrial to commercial. It was in the Air News. In fact, it was in again last fall, as being 30 years back, 29 years back, that it was changed to commercial. And now I'm told it's industrial.
Dates has always been industrial. The Watson factory has been changed to commercial. So the Watson, which faces onto Main Street, is commercial. But the Dates boundary has, oh, no, it's not, it's still industrial. Oh, we've asked them to correct this, but we've asked them to correct this, only it's still industrial. It should be changed to commercial. It's the only thing that's working for that. But Dates boundary, which is the property we're speaking of, has always been industrial.
But nonetheless, the bylaw says unwanted sound, and that's what we're getting, it's sound that I don't want. It's
The
disturbing.
bylaw also says the exemption for industrial. It's that industrial is exempt.
But why is that building there in downtown, like where it's a residential area, why should it be industrial? Whoever gave that building permit, that building is brand new, it's only about 3 years old. It was built illegally, it should have been a build over, it didn't happen. The whole thing is brand new, foundation, the whole works, that building is illegal.
So, industrial lands were created in communities so people could walk to them. In fact, if you, go to a lot of cities, you see a lot of industrial buildings in the downtown, of course, that can work each other things. But
You can have them in downtown, but not in this residential, all around. And you got the downtown, you can't get more downtown than that.
that's the way the town was built around these
Yeah,
industrial.
but we're not talking back 100 years.
But the zoning has not changed. It
Well,
hasn't-
whose fault is that?
It's no,
Whoever gave the building permit for that building, like, that should not have happened.
but it's zoned
It's
industrial.
also
Can't
flood,
stop it.
it's also
Until-
floodplain.
Until the owner changes the zoning, it stays as the zoning as it is. The owner did not change the zoning.
So nothing can be done about the noise.
I'm sorry.
It's a joke. It really is. Disgusting. I am an old man, I'm trying to get to live my last days, and then I got put up that ground. Today was terrible. And you can't ask the guy to close the doors. There's no reason you can't operate with doors. You go to Paris, there's a 7-bay Canadian Tire garage. The doors are always closed. Same business, they do the same thing as this guy does. He hammers away all day here. But you don't hear anything coming out of the Canadian Tire store. Nothing, there's 7 bays there. And it's also residential area. So something can be done if you want it. Thank you.
Any other comments, Council? Seeing none, first motion, Council Rose, will do passing of 9.1, 0.3, 0.4, and 0.6, I believe. Correct. Oh, but 9.2 will do separately as well as 9.5. So then I have.
Moved by McFell, seconded by Councillor Tilly, that the committee of the whole recommend the following items be approved as presented, as outlined in the staff reports listed in the governance protective services function area. 9.1, report number bylaw 05-2023, noise bylaw exemption request for July 1st TN event. That bylaw report 05-2023 be received, 1 and 2, and that council grant an exemption from the noise bylaw 2609-14 on Saturday, July 1st, 2023, from 12 noon to 8 p.m. for the purpose of a backyard festival to be held at the property located at 1164 Studeman Road, Murray Township, North Dumfries. 9.3, report number FD-06-2023, approval of acquisition of air filtration system for Apparatus Bay. First, that FD report number 06-2023 be received. 2, and that
The council approved the acquisition of an air filtration system for the fire hall apparatus bay in the amount of $51,643 plus HSD from Air Technology, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute any necessary documents to facilitate this purchase. 9.4 report number FD-07-2023, fire department incident response summary for May 2023. That FD report 07-2023 be received for the purposes of information. 9.6 report number CAO-11-2023, consideration of township delegations, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO 2023 conference. That CAO report number 11-2023 be received, and that staff be directed to submit delegation requests with the provincial government at the 2023 AMO conference on behalf of the township as follows. Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, consideration of the comprehensive review and engagement on the Aggregate Resources Act and associated development review / approval process.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now we need 9.2. Right. Here. And 9.5. 9.2, please, Council Rowland again.
Moved by myself, seconded by Council Osmer, first that report bylaw -06-2023 be received for the purposes of discussion, and that staff posts the draft bylaw being a bylaw to prohibit and remove noise with the township of North Dumfries on the township website and the input from the members of the public. 3, and that staff return with a follow-up report and bylaw with any necessary revisions arising from the public consultation phase for the consideration of council at the July 10, 2023 council meeting.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And now we need 9.5. Correct? I agree. 9.3. 9.5. Oh, wait. So this is the one where we're discussing. Sorry, this is the contract. We need a council member to sit on the contract. So do I have a volunteer? Council Rowland? Okay. M-A-N-N. Last name. Okay, and Council Jones, motion please.
Before I read the motion, can I just get one clarification? Before I read the motion, can I have one clarification?
Sure.
All right, I just wanted to make sure it was clear in the MOU, just to clarify that it's clear that council will be deciding the location.
Yes, that was in the MOU. That's correct.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Osmer. First, that CAA report number 10-2023 be received. 2, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the memorandum of understanding with the North Dumfries Pump Track Committee, subject to any minor revisions as required by the township solicitor and the chief administrative officer. 3, that council report that council appoint Councilor Rowland as the council representative of the North Dumfries Pump Track Committee.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. So can I please have a motion to adjourn committee of the whole?
For myself with Council Wilms, that committee of the whole is hereby adjourned and the council meeting be called back to order.
All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And next is number 10, which is the adoption of resolutions. Council Rose.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Rowland, that the council adopt the recommendations of adopted presented by committee of the whole dated June 5, 2023. First report number PW-15-2023, Air Porch Fest on June 24, 2023. Temporary no parking, portions of Howard Marshall Street, Hilltop Drive, Challenger Drive, Robert Simone Way, Patterson Drive, and Vincent Drive.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And now we have the bylaws, Councillor Austin, please.
Well, myself, second by Councilor Wilms, PD report number 18-2023 we received, and that bylaw number 3416-23. Being a bylaw to further amend general zoning bylaw 689-83. Facilitate the construction of a warehouse building addition, truck wash building facility and associated amenities at 552.
I don't have that by Councillor, Austin, I don't have that. I'm looking at number 11, what the number on the bottom of your bylaw. Is that number 11?
So, like my Councilor Bowman, the following bylaw be taken in as read a first and second time. Bylaw number 3415-23, being a bylaw to provide temporary no parking on a portion of Hilltop Drive, on the right road here.
Yeah, that's right.
Our Marshall Street, Challenger Drive, Patterson Drive, Robert Small Way, and Vincent Drive to accommodate the airport trust event.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you.
It's the self-order here. I think it's second bylaw. We're doing one. So the bylaw, we're going well, the bylaw.
Councillor Tilly, the bylaw for the third time, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Holmes, the following bylaw be taken and read as the third time and finally passed, bylaw number 3415-23, being a bylaw to provide temporary no parking on a portion of Hilltop Drive, Howard Marshall Street, Challenger Drive, Patterson Drive, Robert Simone Way, Vincent Drive to accommodate the airport trust.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. And now the motion to make a vote, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Tilly. The council moved into the closed meeting section at 6:56 p.m. under the Municipal Act section 239(2)B and D to discuss report number PAO-12-2023, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, Municipal Act as section 239(2)B, and labor relations or employee negotiations, Municipal Act section 239(2)D.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. Thank you, I'd like to report coming out of close. The council would like to thank Ms. Kim Henson. What was that? Actually, this is the resolution from the House of Laws. Should be, thank you, I'd like to report you should have for the post coming councilors. Thank you, I'd like to report coming out of close. The council would like to thank Ms. Kim Henson. Go ahead, councilors.
Move by myself, second by Councilor Tilly, that council wishes to thank Ms. Lee Robinson for her service to the township of North Dumfries and to extend congratulations on her new posting. And that the chief administrative officer be authorized to offer an employment contract to Mr. Robert Raycroft to fulfill the role of the Director of Engineering and Public Works on an acting basis during the recruitment process associated with the hiring of a new director. And that the chief administrative officer be authorized to enter into an arrangement with a consulting firm to assist the corporation with peer review services in support of the development engineering program for the immediate time period. And that the chief administrative officer advance forward with the request for proposal process to secure for the longer term period development engineering consulting services to support the corporation. And that Councillor Wilms and Councillor Tilly be appointed as council representatives to the review committee for the recruitment of a new director of engineering and public works, along with the treasurer, director of corporate services, and the chief administrative officer.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. Councilor Tilly, can I have a bylaw, please?
Moved by myself, seconded by Council Oster, that bylaw number 3417-23 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the committee of the whole on June 5th, 2023, be read first, second, and third time. Excuse me, and finally be passed, signed, and sealed by the mayor and clerk.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you.
He gets choked up at the end.
Councillor Wells, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Council Rowland, that whereas business before the committee of the whole meeting has been completed at 7:26 P.M. And be it resolved that this meeting adjourns and meets again on Monday, June 12 at 6 P.M. for a special council meeting.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you.